everybody, it's Kevin Deskins with Midwest Photo. I'm the director of marketing here, and we are continuing our week of the virtually cool Midwest Photo Feature Fair, where we talk to photographers and feature them about the topics that they capture, the subjects that they capture, I should say, and some of the gear that they might use or what's on their wish list and how they get it done. So today we've got a good friend of mine, somebody who photographed my wedding, Ashley West. How you doing, Ashley?
Hi, good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for thinking of me.
No, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. So you are a Columbus, Ohio. You shoot around Columbus, Ohio, kind of based on the east side, but you've got your own studio and you capture weddings and you capture families and engagements and all kinds of just amazing imagery. I mean, that's why my wife and I hired you. I mean, I know we went to school together, but you're just an amazing artist, and I had to bring that up. What's your website so people know how to check out your work?
My website is just ashleywestphotography.com. So I got really lucky with one of those names that you can't really botch. Ashleywestphotography.com is where to find me.
Cool. And how long have you been shooting?
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about this morning, and I was just like, gosh, what can I reflect on in my business? But March will be officially 10 years.
Wow. A decade.
Business. Yeah. Which is really crazy. So prior to that, for a year prior to that, I was shooting with another photographer and kind of like learning, but yeah, 10 years by myself, which makes me feel very old. That when you can do things in decades, that starts to like age you. It's like, if you've done something for a decade, that means you're not young anymore. But it's been the best decade. I mean, I've only lived 3, but it's been the best decade of my life, honestly.
Good. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. And you're going to have a party at your studio or something when this is all over.
That's a really good idea. Man, COVID's really just thrown a wrench in that whole plan. But I was thinking, like, what is some way to celebrate? Because you got to celebrate, like, as a business owner, you just have to celebrate your wins, your accomplishments. It makes the hard times feel.
Yeah, you deserve it. You deserve it.
Yeah, sure.
Treat yourself.
I need to like really think that through, because I would love to do something to celebrate 10 years, because that's a lot. I haven't really, like, even when I finished the studio, we never even did like any kind of open house.
Wow.
So maybe I need to do something like that. But March is kind of not good for like weather. So I don't know, but you're getting my brain moving on that topic. So
good. I'm glad you're going to start thinking about it. So you capture, let's kind of just get into it. You capture both engagements and weddings, right?
Right.
So you have do you have a favorite?
Okay. Between those two?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm being completely honest, I think I prefer weddings. And well, okay. So I guess I could argue both, but my initial thought when you asked that was weddings, because it's just genuinely so raw. There, the emotions there, and the all of the excitement, the feelings are there. There's nothing that we're trying to create. It's just so naturally existent on that day, which makes my job so much easier. And I genuinely love capturing people in what they feel. So on a wedding day, it's just genuinely easy, because people are so happy to be marrying, the love of their life. And especially this year, I think it's like added that extra element of like, love's not canceled. And it's just, the ceremonies that I photographed this year have been like exponentially sweet, because I feel like a lot of my weddings either postponed or they scaled down. And I think I've just been so touched by so many of these ceremonies. They're so sweet. Like, these people are just like, yeah, these are our 30 favorite people in the world, and we still wanted to get married, and that's what matters. So we're doing it. So, but I do love engagements, because like just a couple weeks ago, I just shot an engagement session, and this was like so fun. So I love when couples come to me with like this kind of idea. So they were planning their engagement session, and they apparently they're like huge movie buffs. So we went to Studio 35 and like drank beer, and we did some photos inside the like theater, and then we did some like in their little bar area, and they put their like name up on the marquee. It was so cute.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and it just felt like them, like at engagement sessions, like I want to do something that is you. Like if you have a dog, if you love music, if you love coffee, if you love, if you like wine, what do you do? Who are you guys? Like, where do you go? Is there a favorite place, a restaurant? So when I do engagement sessions, that's kind of like the list that I run down of like, who are you? Because it's about them. So I just like to pull out that in engagement sessions.
Yeah. And it seems like you really hone in, like when you're capturing love as a photographer, you are ready to show up, and you're right. It's something that's very easy because you're showing up and all the emotions are just raw and on display, and you're
Yeah.
there to document that.
Yeah.
And that's something I've always appreciated about you, is that you're very good at coming in and seeing that emotion and honing in on it and really just and capturing it very well.
That's
Um,
an incredible compliment. Thank you. I think from the beginning of doing this, I realized I really just love people
mhm.
and getting to know all of the people. I've photographed so many people in the last 10 years and getting to know them and like who they are. I have a genuine interest in that. So I've always found that I've been so lucky to book clients that feel like friends. It's just this like natural connection where we're just like hanging out. It's date night. I'm your third wheel and I'm coming along to just like be there to document all of whatever it is you do on a Tuesday night at the movie theater, right? So, yeah, I just love people. I love to hear everyone's stories are so fun too. Like some of them are simple, some of them are extravagant, but like all of them interest me because they're them, they're unique. So, it's a great job. I love
Yeah.
it.
It shows that you're very passionate, and
Yeah.
that you very much enjoy your job.
Yes.
So when you go, let's say you go to a wedding, um, let's kind of switch gears a little bit here.
Sure.
And I know you're a minimalist, and I know you're very
Yeah.
you're not real into the tech, but you do have
Sure.
your go-tos. You have your
I
like
do.
essentials.
I
What's
do.
one thing that's like photo oriented that you always keep in your bag when you go to a wedding?
I would say my 50 millimeter lens is on my camera like 85% of the time. That's just the perspective I love most. And I try so hard. Like I bought a new 85 when the pandemic hit so I could like stay back from people.
Hmm.
And I just like I'm still using it, but I just can't get behind it as much. I do like my 35 as well, but like my 50 millimeter lens is like the thing that's on my camera all the time. But something I recently got that I feel like every photographer who is listening to this would be like, wow, welcome to the world. Um, are Godox Flashes. And I'm just kind of like, where have I been? So they're
Wow.
like, I feel like they're totally affordable, which I think is what made me kind of be like, they can't work. Obviously, I don't know. Just my brain was like, well, they can't work if they're this cheap. But I had been using for a long time, I was using my Nikon flashes with this little receiver. I think it was called an SU 800
Yep.
on my camera. So when I upgraded my cameras last year, it wasn't compatible with Nikon's new bodies.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I ended up just using my backup camera for receptions. I was really just making it work. But this year I was like, "Okay, I've got to do something for reception lighting." And I really like a backlight during dances. I just feel like that rim light like adds this just romance and like total like it just looks so dreamy to me.
Yeah.
So, I love to backlight them. And the Godox Flashes, so Allison, Kismet Visuals, I'll shout her out, because she's like we're on the phone a minimum of 4 hours a week discussing anything and everything photography. We just edit and we're on speakerphone and we're just talking all day. Anyways, she was like, how do you not have Godox Flashes? And I was like, I don't know. Bought them. I've shot 3 weddings with them. I am very happy with them. They like fire every time. And I am thankful that I was recommended to Godox Flashes. So those are my next new favorite thing at wedding receptions.
That's really cool. Those are so just to kind of rewind a little bit, you're a Nikon shooter, you've got
Yes.
a 35, a 50, and an 85. You love the
Yes.
50 the best.
Right.
And you've just discovered now. I knew you had been shooting with the SU800 and Nikon speedlights, but you officially made the switch to Godox flashes.
I
That
did.
makes me so happy because I've been using them now for a year and a half, and
Okay.
I'm thrilled with how they
Okay,
perform.
cool. So I still feel like currently my studio, I've been shooting 100% natural light, but I
Mhm.
think I want to possibly get a light. Um, so I need to look into more of their products and like what they have because I know Allison has something else that she uses in her studio.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they're like they're just easy and I need that. When you're at a wedding and you're like rushing around and things are happening fast, like I cannot be tinkering around with the
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't work. So I've been really really grateful for their efficiency and just yeah, they've been great.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you know this, but it seems like Allison has caught on and is kind of infecting you with this Godox bug. But you're right; they can.
She
They're.
infects me with a lot of technological. She is the, oh my God, there's something new out. I'm going to try it right away. And I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's fine.
No, they're great. I mean, you can use the speed lights as speed lights. You can use them off camera, and what's great is that you also have the ability to expand into their studio setup too. So,
Sure.
like you've got this beautiful studio on your property, and it's got huge windows, and it's beautiful light that just spills in there. But sometimes you're right; you need that extra little pop, and I think
Yeah.
a little studio setup would be great in there.
Yes.
For what you do, and it'd be completely compatible with whatever you do. And then in addition, I know sometimes you have second shooters.
Right.
Um, with Godox technology, and this, if you don't know this yet, this is going to
Keep
blow
going.
your,
I probably don't.
it's going to blow your mind. With the
Okay.
Godox
I'm ready.
technology, you can have a second shooter that's actually shooting on a different camera system. So if you shoot Nikon, I know
Canon.
you like to have
Right.
a Nikon second shooter, but if you had a Canon second shooter,
Right.
they could have a Godox trigger on for Canon and be triggering the same lights with you. Um,
That I did not know. That is
yes,
pretty brilliant. Is it the
yes.
channels? You have to choose the channels.
You have to, it's like a multi shooter setup that you can set up within
Okay.
the menus, and it's great. Trust me.
That's really cool. That's
We'll sit
super
down and
cool.
I'll show you the ways.
Yeah.
You can even borrow some of mine to check out if you want to
Yeah,
play around
that would
with them.
be awesome. I mean, honestly, you bringing me this mic was like the coolest technology thing I feel like I've that pathetic. It's fine.
Yeah, these are great for Zoom calls, right? They're just like these little $100 mics from Rode, and
Yeah,
I
dang.
love
I'm
them.
kind of like, this is not, I feel like I am professional and I feel very exclusive with it. So thank you for dropping it off.
So let's kind of get back into like a creative mode here. I know you have a love for everything that is fall, and it's very apparent, and I love that. How do you bring this coziness like to your images where folks, and I've even experienced this with Ashley, my wife, who you shot us last year for our anniversary, which was awesome because it was
It
on
was
our
on your anniversary too, which
right,
was
right.
so fun.
You brought this level of coziness where we felt comfortable, and you can tell in the photos that we're like very cozy together. How do you get to that point with your clients? Tell me about
Well, with your shoot specifically, we blasted your first dance song, which was so fun. It was funny because you showed up that day and like I actually didn't know. I knew your anniversary was in March. I just couldn't remember the exact day.
that.
And when you showed up and told me that, I was like immediately just like explosive inside of myself. I was like, that is so fun. This is so cool. Like, we just have to like run with this. But I think one of the biggest things too, I think being a photographer is a lot of things. And I think personal connection with other human beings is just such a huge part of it.
Mhm.
Um, so whether I'm photographing families or couples, and I will say I do photograph a ton of families, and I have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. So that's the stage of life that I'm currently in. So when when the family gets out of the car and the mom's like, he just spit up on this. He's screaming because I opened his Cheetos the wrong way. I'm just like, I get it. Like, we're good. I get it. I know. I get it. So it's really good to photograph things that I've experienced personally in my life, like love. Obviously I'm married to Nick. We've been married 6 years. And I think that you can be inspired. Like going through the process of my wedding was obviously like amazing and wonderful and stressful sometimes. But I think that I'm just genuinely inspired by love. So I just care about who's in front of me. So just making that connection with them and getting to know them and, you know, really as much as I want the connection with them too, I want them to really connect with each other. So just, asking about their life. A lot of people, one thing that's awesome too is so many of my clients are repeat clients. So they show up and it's like, we've done this so many times. Like it feels so natural because I'm like, we've done this so much. Like I know
Right.
you, you know me. Um, so I just really encourage them. And I tell them beforehand too, like, when it comes to families, I mean, I obviously with couples, I say, I'm your third wheel on date night. Like, just be you. Just like do your best to be you. And I always give guidance, but like I leave room for them to do also. So like I'll instruct, hey, do this pose or stand this way. And then sometimes I think silence is okay too, because then sometimes they like look at each other or they laugh or they bonk heads or their noses, or like your beard. I'm sure you get Ashley with that thing all the time. Like whatever makes them be them and silly. So I think leaving a little room for them to feel like they can relax into that pose is really important too. So
Yeah.
lots of look at each other, say something funny. I just want to get their personalities out so they're like not so stiff.
Yeah. That makes a
That
lot
was
of
a
sense.
long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, no, it's a really good answer. You're trying to connect with them, you're trying to get them to connect with each other. And at the end of the day, being human, and a lot of people will get lost behind the viewfinder, as I call it.
Yeah,
They will start to hide behind the camera and just start to kind of, it's almost like a weird voyeuristic documentary, and they can't connect, but you do that
sure,
very well. And I think
sure.
that's where that level of coziness comes through in your imagery, is because
Yeah,
you truly do step out from behind the camera and you start to connect. And
right,
I think that's pretty
right.
important.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I think so too. I think it's created an experience for a lot of my clients too that they
mhm.
appreciate where they're like, "Hey, this girl's like kind of feels like my friend. It's kind of a nice situation. Like she makes it the best that she can with three kids that are doing whatever at the time, because kids, you just never know what you're going to get. Usually an engaged couple shows up ready to go. I don't have to bring out like my Tickle Me Elmo or anything for them.
All right, switching kind of back into gears, back into the topic of gear, I should say, is now I went to college with you,
Yes.
and I went to college with Nick. Nick was in some of our
Yeah.
classes as well. Your husband, um, and I often see these really strong images of you, or you and the kids, on your blog or your
Yeah.
social media. So is he picking up the camera as often
Yeah.
as he used to?
So when I first started, he did second shoot with me a ton. And I think that too was, well, one, we didn't have kids. We were young. We were both passionate and we had the time for him to be like an actual kind of part of my business. Um, he definitely doesn't professionally shoot with me now, but man, is he getting good at taking pictures of me and the kids. So he's very tolerant of it because, it's tough living with a photographer, and if there were any photographer's husband that were or wife, I suppose, sitting here listening, they would be like, okay, I get that. Like, oh my God, every day is picture day around here. Like it's exhausting. Can we please not have picture day every day? Um, he does really, really well. Honestly, yeah, he does great. A lot of times I set it up for him too. I try not to make him use his brain because I'm also trying to get him to make Porter smile and all of that. But I will say he is one of my secret weapons. But I also, my friend Carrie, her and I get our kids together a ton, and we usually try to swap photos for like 15 or 20 minutes. Sometimes it's great, sometimes Porter's screaming and you never know what you're going to get, but that has been really fun. We don't, not only do we trade like true family photos, like, that are scheduled with all of us, but her and I also just get the kids together like a handful of times a year. we usually go do some kind of fun adventure. So she'll shoot for me and I'll edit my own photos, and I'll shoot for her and she'll edit her own. And it's just been a fun little thing to do because then we just always have, content for our social media, and just like, no image with your kid is an image you wish you didn't have, like
Right.
any memory preserved is like, and that is something that is such a huge value to me, like having gone through my own wedding and my many moments throughout my life. My friend Claire, she just moved back to Colorado, but she's Ruby Photography. She just moved back to Colorado, but she did photos of Nick and I before we had kids at our house, like right when we bought it. And we've renovated the whole house, but we hadn't at that point. It was kind of a hot mess. But there's some of my favorite photos because it was just like Nick and I before we like embarked on this like crazy journey of parenthood and a almost 5-year renovation of like our entire property and studio. So I mean, any moment captured is good to have. So it's nice when Nick takes pictures of us, and of course I take pictures of him with the kids too.
Yeah.
But he's always more willing to grab the camera instead of be in the photos. And I've realized lately, I'm like, I really need to get you in more. So
Now, so when it's either you or Nick or your friend Carrie, you're using your standard, like your DSLR that you
yes,
would to capture these things. Do you think there would be like, would you go for something like a small mirrorless camera, for example, if
you
you were
know,
to choose to do those kind of candid shots, or would you stick with something more like your DSLR if you had to
I
choose to get him something or her something?
that is such a great question that I'm not sure I know the answer to because I've actually never shot mirrorless.
Oh, okay.
Um, Allison switched to mirrorless
Hmm.
a year or two ago, and she swears by it, like lives and dies by it. But again, my motto, it should be on my website. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So like I've had a successful career with Nikon gear and it's never really done me wrong. So it's kind of one of those things. I didn't even like specifically choose Nikon. My dad bought me a camera. Thought I was going to be a ceramics art teacher, and then my dad bought me a camera for Christmas that year. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm obsessed with this, so we're going
Yep.
to switch gears a little bit.
Yep.
Um but I have been very interested in the mirrorless situation.
Yep.
So I think if you can shed any light on that, because
Sure.
I'm sure you've shot with both.
I have shot with both, and both Ashley and I have converted to mirrorless
Okay.
since. We've actually switched systems completely.
Yeah.
But I would say, here's what I'll say about that: is that there's an ongoing debate. Some people shoot
Sure.
both.
Sure.
Here's what I would say of anything, and this is where I'm going to have a little bit of a plug too for Midwest Photo.
Yeah.
Um, Whatever you're going to buy something, and this is something that we all do here, and that
Right.
I'm sure that you might have considered as well, if not you've already done, is if you're considering getting something, whether that's a lens, a new camera, you want to try out mirrorless, we do have a rentals department.
Right.
And we have a very robust mirrorless systems, whether that's Nikon, Canon, Sony,
Sure.
Fuji, within that rentals department. And what's nice
Right.
about that is that whenever you rent something with us, we have a try before you buy. So if, let's say, you rented, you've got your 35, you've got your 50, you've got
Right.
um, your 85. Now, let's say you wanted to try that on a Nikon Z6 or a Z7, which are the current full frame Nikon
Right.
mirrorless cameras. You can rent that. And if you really loved it, because you can
Yeah.
adapt those lenses to that mirrorless camera, if you really loved it,
Right.
you could take your rental's cost of one day and
Mhm.
apply it towards your purchase. So then your rental is
Nice.
free, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, you got to be comfortable with what you're shooting. And you know that
Sure. Sure.
because
Yeah.
you yourself, I mean, you if it's not broke, don't fix it. So,
Yeah.
if you're comfortable with it, keep doing it. If you
Right.
find that there might be an advantage and you try it out and it's still not for you, you're just out that rentals cost. But if you love it,
Sure.
then of course you can go ahead and decide to buy it. So
That is
that's my recommendation
yes.
to you, to try things out, and of other photographers too. Just try
Right.
out what you're about to buy. Test drive it before you actually.
That is such great advice. That
Yeah.
is such great advice. That would be a great way. I have been intrigued. I kind of also was like, well, I'm gonna let all you people give it a shot. And then if you love it, maybe I'll love it. So I'm like also just waiting it out.
Yep.
But I know people love mirrorless, so I haven't done it yet.
Yep. All right. So let's go back to your clients a little bit more. I know you've printed before. Sometimes you deliver digital files, and some photographers do that. Some deliver simply prints. Some deliver both.
Sure.
But I know you're big on printing your work and having your work printed and displaying it in a home, because
Yeah,
why else would you capture love as a photographer if not to encourage those people who are in love to print that work and put it in their
sure,
home to display it?
sure.
What do you have a when you deliver a print to a client, is there a favorite size that you've got, like you've seen and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful, I think
Mhm.
everybody should have an 11 by 14 in their home
Right.
of a shot at their wedding? What's your take on that? Or finish of photos, are you a luster person, are you a matte person? What
Matte all the
you
way.
like, so you like matte finishes?
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great question. And so I use Shootproof. So
Hmm.
through my gallery clients, some of my wedding packages include print credits. So, after their wedding, they have X amount of dollars to print from their gallery.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of let clients just kind of do whatever it is they, want to do with those, with what sizes and what have you. But just speaking from my personal family photos and how I like to display, I guess I would say it's kind of a range. But one thing I really like to do, and I'm sure other people do this too, but so I have these 5 frames from IKEA in our stairwell, or there's probably 6 actually. So one of them, IKEA's super weird though. They have all these weird sizes, but
They do.
no, but basically my point is just sizing in the sense of large, medium, small. So I have some square. I like to mix things up and kind of do a little bit of everything. So I know there is one 16 by 20, but I actually think the other one might be a 20 by 24. So we have like a huge one in the middle, and then there's like a 16 by 20, and then an 8 by 10, and then 2 8 by 8s, and then I have 4 by 6s too. And one thing I really like to do, so every time we get our family photos taken, I print my favorites in those sizes, but I leave them all in the frame. So like as the seasons change, sometimes I go back to old ones because every time I walk up the stairs, I'm like, oh, so it's nice. And we kind of get our photos done in different seasons. So I
Yeah,
love to go back to like, oh, fall's over. Let's switch to our spring photos now. So that's something I really love to do, is just kind of like look back on old ones and
sure.
kind of keep the frames feeling fresh. And then I'm sure people understand this too. Like absence makes the heart grow fonder. If you haven't seen the photos in 6 months, a year, then you pull them back up and you can look at them every day again. You just have this like new love for them. So
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And again, I find it incredibly important, and I know you find this incredibly important, to print your work.
yeah.
And I love that you mix. That's something that we do at home too, is that we mix and match sizes, mixing big with small, different framing options, as long as it's
Yeah.
all cohesive.
Yeah.
Um, and
We have a gallery wall in our living room. And when the studio was first done, we just had Porter at that point, and I did some like simple black and whites of him.
mhm.
And it's 6 8 by 10 frames, and they're like in 2 perfect rows. And it's just like simple, clean black and white portraits of like all of his different expressions at that time. And those are some of my favorite of him. And then when Nolan was born, we recently did some more studio stuff with them. So then I switched those out. So I like the eclectic stuff, but I also can get behind like a nice modern, simple situation too. So
Yeah, definitely. All right. So before we go, one last question here. So as photographers, we often, whether we're owning a business or a freelance or just hobbyists, we're buying those expensive items for ourselves, right? Like I buy my own body, I buy my own lens. I'm sure you do the
yeah,
same. It's
right.
pretty rare for us to give or receive those expensive hardware items as gifts. It's
Sure.
rare.
Sure.
Um, But let's say you had an assistant, or you had a second shooter, or even just a photographer friend like Allison. What is something that you could pick up at Midwest that is either a stocking stuffer or a small gift as a photographer that would be useful, and not another lens mug Christmas, as we've been talking about, as
My favorite with that, I just have to touch on the lens mug because everyone just always bought me the Canon one. So I have like 65 Canon mug lenses. And
oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, it's fine, like I love everyone. It's fine, but I'm like, dang, y'all, this is the Canon mug lens, but they don't know. I wish you were asking this question to Allison because she is the best gift giver on like little things. But when I first heard that question, I literally almost said, "Can Godox Flashes fit in a stocking?"
They could. They technically
Because
could.
that is how I feel. But I will say, I have one thing that I do really like. Well, number one, extra lens caps, because where do they go? I don't know where they go. Where do they go? Okay. Also extra memory cards, because if any photographer right now, it is October 20 something, we're all like exhausted and don't have enough memory cards for everything we're shooting. And it's like, so I would probably say lens caps,
Yep.
memory cards.
Yep.
And then I have this like one lens carrier that has been really great for family sessions where you just put one lens in it. So instead of carrying like your whole bag, like if I have my 50 on my camera, it actually can fit like two. That's been like something I've really liked. And then maybe like an extra mask because it is COVID-19 and we need to have plenty of those.
Midwest now makes masks, by the way. We print
Really?
yeah, you can print your own work on our masks.
Oh my gosh, that is
Yep.
so funny. So
Yep.
I could wait, like a photograph on a mask?
You could do your logo, you could do a photograph of your family, you could do the other half of your face. So
That would be great. You could, yeah, that's really cute.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. That's
Yep.
funny. And maybe you could even do something kind of funny because it's hard to get people, that connection gets a little lost behind a mask. So
Yep.
yeah, that's a great idea.
That is a good idea. All right, Ashley, I appreciate your time so much today. Thank you for talking with us and kind of telling us about your techniques and your thoughts and your philosophies on photography. You're an amazing photographer. Anybody who wants to check out her work, please do at ashleywestphotography.com. She puts out just, you really can't even tell she's there because she is truly there capturing other people's love. And it's just incredible work. So Ashley, thank you so much.
Kevin, thank you. I've loved you since I met you about 10 years ago. Gosh, how was it 10 years ago?
It seems like it would have probably been about
maybe
10.
it was longer.
No, I think
yeah.
maybe 12 years ago even.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So thank you for thinking of me. I'm truly flattered because there's hundreds of us out there in Columbus. So thank you for thinking of me. It was an honor and it was fun.
Thank you so much. All right, folks, if you want to see the other virtually cool Midwest Photo Feature Fair interviews, we're going to have those up on our Instagram and our YouTube and our Facebook, and we'll be sending out an email blast later about this video and what Ashley has talked about. And hopefully we'll even get to see one of her shots and maybe all the gear that she used in that shot. Now, I know like she said, she uses just a camera, lens, maybe a reflector sometimes. So we'll get you a shot and then we'll kind of explain what she used in that shot for you. So we'll see you next time, guys.